Hello and welcome to the Bucketlister Podcast. Join your host Keith Crockford along with special guests who have travelled the world, here to share stories of their adventures and plenty of inspo to add to your bucket list. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Bucketlister Podcast. I am your host, Keith Crockford, and today I am chatting with Dave Shanks. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Keith.
How are you?
Great, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
No problems at all. Now, I've known Dave for quite a few years now, and Dave is the owner of Water to Go, which is the filtered water bottle system that allows you to basically grab your water bottle, fill it up from a muddy puddle anywhere in the world, and drink clean water. We've been promoting at the Bucket List Company Water to Go bottles for years. We've just literally having our own Bucket List Company Water to Go bottles made as we speak. And I thought it would be great to get Dave on to have a little chat and kind of hear about where the initial idea came from, how it works, what the plans are, and just talk through why everybody that is traveling around the world should have at least one Water to Go bottle. So, Dave, where did the idea originally come from your perspective to set up Water to Go?
It started, I used to be in the garment business, so textiles, traveling around the world. We would source garments for the high street, people like House of Fraser, TK Maxx, and we used to visit factories all around the world. And to be frank, whenever they see a European face, they immediately get worried that if you fall ill, you can't give them any orders. So they give you bottles of water and make sure you don't drink anything which is going to upset your tummy. That's all well and good, and it's all done with the best intentions, much the same as a lot of travel companies give out single-use plastic water bottles. But ultimately, there isn't the infrastructure for recycling the bottles. And on one particular factory visit in Mauritius, I went to a factory to vet it to see if they were good enough to work for the UK retailer I was working with. Fantastic factory, all lovely, new machinery. They were dyeing knitwear. So I asked to see where the clean water, after it's been filtered, comes out of the factory before it goes back into the river. And they took me around the back of the factory, and there was just a lake of awful water. They weren't treating the water at all. And then then one of the ladies who had been distributing bottles of water to the workers in the factory came out with a little trolley and dumped all of the water bottles into the same lake of dirty water. And the factory manager assured me that the earth would take it away. There wouldn't be a problem. And I realised he was trying to do his best for the factory workers. He'd give me a couple of bottles to make sure I wasn't going to fall ill. And it was then the penny dropped that despite his best intentions, he was like polluting what is a gorgeous, gorgeous place, Mauritius. And I think a lot of the travel companies do exactly the same thing. So that evening, sitting at the bar, they decided to have a gin and tonic and ask for a glass of water. And the barman said, "Why do you want a glass?" He said, "We've got bottled water here." I said, No, I don't want any plastic bottles. And he said, "What's it for?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to drink it." He said, "No, you can't drink it. It's not filtered." So I realized then that you could have a reusable, refillable, recyclable water bottle, which would cut down on the amount of bottles being made. But ultimately, if the water you had access to wasn't potable, wasn't safe to drink, it was a lost cause. So that's when we came up with the idea of a reusable water bottle with a filter in, so that when you're drinking, it cleans the water and makes it safe to drink. That was in 2009. I did a lot of work behind the scenes, and we launched the business in 2010. So that's how it all started.
So how did you then go from garments to water bottles? Because, I mean, in terms of, I can see where it came from, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's not just a case of going and getting a water bottle made, is it? Like the technology that's gone into your filters, that, you know, I mean, I remember, I think it must have been at the Adventure Travel Show years and years ago. I remember seeing your demo with the dirty puddle water that you then squeezed out. Like, you know, there can't just be a case of, I'm going to create this. There must be testing to go through. There must be the science behind it to make sure that what's coming out is fit for human use. So how did that process all happen?
Okay, well, I mean, basically the first step was I wanted to make a reusable, refillable water bottle, recycled as well, so that you didn't have to have bottled water. That was fairly straightforward until you come to the point where traditionally people have used man-made estrogens, man-made hormones to make plastic flexible. God knows where they came up with the concept, but that's what was happening. And a lot of those hormones, they're called BPAs, bisphenol A, can leach into the water and can leach onto your hands when you're holding the bottle. So we developed, with the support of a very good technician, a range of different materials which were all approved by the Food and Drug Administration in the US for repeat use with food and beverages. That basically meant that the materials we're using, there's nothing possibly could come out into the water onto your hands. That was the first step. We then looked at what type of filtration was available, and the majority of the filters that are in the marketplace are carbon block, which carbon's been used on the Orient for thousands of years to get rid of bad taste and bad smell. And we looked at that, and this is the same technology as you would get in a basic Brita filter at home. So that can improve the taste and the smell, but without going into too much technology, the holes in the filter, if you think of a filter as a fishing net, the smaller the holes, the more you catch. The holes in the carbon block filter are very big indeed, so bugs, bacteria, protozoa, cysts, and viruses just get straight through. So your Brita filter will make it taste and smell better, but it won't do anything to actually filter harmful contaminants out. So we became aware that a team had been working in the States on what they call a multi-layer membrane, where you can build in different layers into a single membrane and incorporate different types of filtration mechanisms. So they had developed it to a stage where it was good enough to take out bacteria and protozoa and cysts. They're the things that get into the wall of your stomach and cause really long-term problems. But they couldn't take out viruses. And what I wanted was a one-stop shop, if you like, one filter that would take out anything harmful anywhere. So I worked with the same technician guy for over 18 months, and we developed an extra layer within the membrane. So we've got 3 different technologies in our filters. And it's the combination of those technologies that deliver what we do. So we'll take out anything that's harmful, like heavy metals like lead and iron. We'll take out chlorine and fluoride out of your tap water. You're traveling somewhere like Sri Lanka, we'll even take out naturally occurring arsenic or cadmium out of the water. And the main purpose is to make water when you're traveling safe. So we take out bacteria, protozoa, cysts, and even viruses. So our bottles, our filters, will take out typhus, cholera, and hepatitis out of the water as well. So keep you safe when you're travelling. That's the main aim of the filter. So we did that, and we actually had the filters ready by probably the end of 2010, beginning of 2011. We then had them tested, because as you say, Keith, we need to prove and demonstrate. It's all right me saying my filters are brilliant. So we tested them with the London School of Hygiene Tropical Medicine, where they showed us even polioviruses, which is one of the smallest viruses known to man, we were filtering out at over 99.98%. We were taking out bacteria at 99.9999%. We then did tests in Florida with one of the big labs that the American government used. We've done tests on well water directly from the ground in India. And we've done it with an ISO-approved lab in China, in Shanghai, called IMI. And they all confirm that we do the job we do. So up to 99.9999% of any microbiological contaminant and removal of any harmful chemicals as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is so interesting to see. And I mean, we were at Destination Show a couple of weeks ago, and your stand was right opposite ours. And obviously, it's great when it's quiet because you've got someone to chat to. But we both of us had very good shows, and we didn't have very much down quiet time until maybe the last hour of each day. But it's amazing seeing people's faces when when they've never seen your product before, and you're pouring this muddy, dirty water into the water bottle and then squeezing it out into a shot glass clear. I think some people think it's a magic trick, and then other people kind of, when you try to go to give them the glass to have a drink of it, like you could just see the hesitation in people there to say, well, no, that was filthy just a minute ago, and now you want me to drink it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I started off from my very, very early days with some extreme outdoor guys. And it's a company called Ronnie Sunshines. And they basically take people out. They've got an outdoor store. They've got a shooting range in the store. It's all, sort of real heavy, out back type of guys. And you can go to them on a Thursday night and they'll kit you up with all the clothing and a big knife, and they take you off into the countryside and you basically cut your own wood to make a shelter, and they do all that. And I did a couple of days where I stood in the store to get people aware of the product and get some feedback. And Dave, the boss, came across to me and said, "Shanksy, this is a demo." And I said, "What?" He said, "It's a demo." He said, "You can talk as much as you want, but if you don't demonstrate it." So he said, "Right, I'm going to get some dirty water." And he went out into the car park and literally scooped up water out of the car park. And the guys in the shop thought this was hilarious, threw a couple of cigarette butts in and a half a sandwich and stirred it all round. And it was like the cover of a 3-year-old cup of tea, with all the cigarette butts and everything on the top. And I just started drinking it, so pouring it into the bottle and drinking it. And then came the shot glasses, because people were saying, "Oh, well, if you're drinking it, I can't see what's coming out." So we started transferring it into the shot glasses so people could see how clean it was. And that's been, Keith, the way we started all of the shows now. We always have jugs of dirty water, be it rainwater, or if the rainwater is not dirty enough to prove the case, we throw a bit of mud in and everything as well. But you're right in this, that there's some people who stand there aghast, open-mouthed, "I'm not going to drink that, I'm not going to drink that." We show them the testing results and then, say to them, "Look, we're working," and again, with your stand being directly opposite, which is, "Look, we're working with the Bucketlister company. They recommend our bottles to all the people who are traveling with them. You ought to be using this bottle when you're traveling." And then we got the other side of it, which is people who just hate the taste of tap water here in the UK. There's a load of people who don't like chlorine. There's a load of people who are very against the fact that the water's got loads of fluoride in it now as well. So they use our bottles on a day-to-day basis just to make sure that the water they're drinking is better than bottled, better for your body, no chemicals in it. So that's that's how we started the demonstrations, and that's how we ended up with the show opposite you guys, doing with my jugs of dirty water.
And so in terms of the product itself then,
yeah,
the filters will last 200 litres per filter, don't they?
Yes, yeah. I mean, basically, there's 3 technologies in the filter. They work at optimum level up to about 220, 230 litres. So we've been very clever. I mentioned before that activated carbon that people like Brita use for the taste and smell. We put just enough of that into each filter to last for 200 litres because it's got a specific lifespan when it comes into contact with water. And we know that at the end of 200 litres, it starts to lose its strength. And whilst it's still being protected by the other 2 technologies which do the heavy filtration work, the water will gradually start to taste and smell as the activated carbon loses its strength, a bit fusty and as if it's not being filtered. So the filter will tell you when it's losing its life and when it's coming to the end of its life, although it's still being protected for about another 10 or 15 days at 2 litres a day. But we know that we can go beyond that, but basically after 230, 240 litres, it's not working at its optimum level. And let's face it, if you're going to be drinking water in Africa or Nepal or India, where the water is contaminated, you want to be working at its optimum level.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had several water to go bottles now, different shapes, different sizes. Like, how have you progressed those over the years? Because you started off with like one specific sort of bottle.
Yeah.
The tops have changed, the bottle designs changed, the sizes changed. Like, what's happened with that over the years?
Well, basically, as I said, we started off with the FDA approved materials. And because we were quite early in looking at those materials, there was a restricted offer in terms of what you could do with them, how you could dye them, how you could make them. And we started off with a black classic rigid bottle, which we said is for outdoor and travel. Now that was great, and we still sell a lot of them now. But over the years, people have come back to us and said, right, we love your bottles, but for example, I'm going away to, let's say, India, and I want to be able to brush my teeth, and I want to be able to take some tablets, and I want to be able to get the water out of my bottle so I can do that. So we've gradually over the years developed new products, still FDA approved. So we've now got the active range, and all of those bottles are squeezy, which means you can decant if you wanted to make a cup of tea. You could fill the bottle up with water, squeeze the water out into a kettle, and make a cup of tea with filtered water. But it also means if you're in a hot climate, with the bottle being squeezed, you can squeeze a little bit more out to get more of a good guzzle of water if you're really hot. And then during the pandemic, because I didn't have much else to do, I spent about 9 months working and developing new materials. And we've now got a range of bottles made in the UK for the first time, which are made entirely out of sugarcane waste. So it's a completely new, environmentally friendly material, and the whole ethos of our business has been to stop single-use plastic water bottles. So we've even taken it even further now. We harvest the sugarcane canes. We've developed a way to get a new eco material out of it, which we can make bottles out of. They're made in the UK, so no fossil fuels are used at all. So we're not using oil, we're not having to dig up oil out of the ground. And in the next couple of months, we'll also have a new lid, also made in the UK. And that's a brand new process where we're recouping used vegetable oil from the catering industry. And with a partner in the Netherlands, we've developed a new polypropylene substitute, a hard plastic for the lids, which is completely made out of recycled vegetable oil. So our product is becoming greener. We make all of our packaging in the UK now. That's all recycled, recyclable FSC, so Forestry Commission stock. So it's all sustainable stuff, because I'm trying to get people to make their journeys. It doesn't matter if you're going to the gym, Glasgow or Ghana. Anybody who's away from home, who wants access to clean water, we get it with our bottles. So the journeys themselves becomes more sustainable. Our bottles are more sustainable. Everything's recyclable. All the bottles are dishwasher safe. So it's been a progress, Keith. We don't rest and say, right, well, we've done that. I mean, about a year ago, we got to the target I'd set before COVID, which was to have replaced 150 million single-use plastic water bottles. As of just prior to the show you mentioned there, Destinations, we've now replaced over 187 million single-use plastic water bottles since we started. So it's all about taking care of the environment, making sure that when you are out in wonderful destinations, as you guys deliver with the bucket list, we can take care of the environment as well as our own health. And that's all, and the health side is done by the filters, and the fact that our bottles are recyclable, reusable. That should be the last water bottle you ever need to buy.
Yeah, I think you're dead right with that. I think, in terms of the fact that you are safe, we've got a Sahara Desert trek happening at the minute. Now, obviously, that does have bottled water on it. The camels have to carry the water through. But, I always take, one of your bottles on that trip. And if there is water in the well, I will then fill the water from the well. But obviously you can't always guarantee that there is going to be water in the well. So, at that point, you kind of need to, if you can save some, great. But if you can't, then there's not a great deal you can do about it, unfortunately.
No, you're right. And I mean, in a lot of places, Kate, you'll be aware that when we're abroad, bottled water is just water in a bottle. It's not how we think of bottled water being refined and filtered. And again, going back to the show, I was listening to a gentleman saying that he was out in India. Thankfully, he had one of our bottles, but his brother-in-law didn't, and bought a bottle of water off a street vendor. And somebody had told them, as long as you could hear the bottle click as it opened, it had been sealed, and it was fine, safe to drink. But basically, the street urchins now, you take the used bottles, fill them up with any tap water or anything you can get their hands on, put a tiny dot of super glue on the cap, so it locks into place. So when you unclick it, it does sound as if it's a sealed bottle of water. And this chap's father-in-law that ended up in hospital having been ill for 3 days, completely dehydrated because he had dodgy water from a street vendor. So I would always recommend, and I know it's my company and that sounds as if I'm selling the bottles, but I always recommend for a belt and braces approach, wherever you're abroad and somebody is giving you bottled water, stick it through our water bottle. The filter will take out anything that's harmful and just make sure you're fit for the rest of your journey. It's a pity to spend hundreds, if not thousands of pounds on a luxury holiday, going off somewhere really, really nice, which you've always wanted to go to, and end up passing 2 or 3 days in the loo.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we tell everyone, to take one on an Everest base camp trek, for example. We've spoken about this before on the podcast, and it's, we're telling you need to be drinking 4 liters of water a day. So that's going to be 3 bottles buying it on the trek. And obviously on an Everest base camp trek, that's going to get considerably more expensive the higher you go up, because they've got to carry it. There is a porter carrying your water for you that you can buy in a plastic bottle. You've then got to think about what's going to happen to that plastic bottle when you are at Tengboche, Dingboche, Loboche. Like, what's going to happen to that plastic bottle at that point? Now, at the top, you could be paying £2-3 a bottle, £4 a bottle sometimes for a bottle of water, and you're going to be buying 3 of those in a day. So at that point, that's £10-12 a day you're going to be spending on water on an Everest base camp trek. Never mind the plastic waste that goes with it. So actually, what's one of your bottles now, Dave?
Well, I mean, the bottles range from 25 to 35 pounds, and that comes with the first filter. But even when you're replacing your filters, you get 2 filters. You can get them at the high street for 25 quid in Blacks or Millets or Amazon. So that's a twin pack of 2 filters. So each filter is £12.50. So if you work out, that's 200 litres, £12.50, 6.25 pence per litre of guaranteed safe water anywhere in the world. It's cheaper than bottled water, and it's a damn sight better for the planet. I mean, you mentioned there, Everest Base Camp. A friend of ours just come back from Peru and done all the Inca trails, and he said they were charging between $7 and $10 a bottle for 50 centilitre bottles of water, because there's just nowhere else you can buy it. And said, if you don't want it, you don't want it, but that's the price it is. So I mean, it's cheaper than bottled water. So I always say to, we go off with my family, not to very exotic places, but just by not buying bottled water, for 4 of us for 2 weeks, you save 20 or 30 quid just in the first week. So by the time you got through to the end of the second week, you've covered the cost of your bottles. You've still got loads of life in your filters. They can last you 3 or 4 holidays without a problem. And there's that self-confidence about knowing that you're not going to fall ill, and you're doing a bit for the planet as well.
Well, I think the other advantage you've got there is, just thinking about it from an airport perspective. Like, obviously, you've got to tip your water out before you go through security. And there are in some airports water filters, but again, you don't know actually if it has been filtered or where it's coming from. But you could literally walk into the toilet and fill your water bottle back up, and then know that you're drinking clean water again. So you're not throwing money down the drain in essence by having to tip your water out all the time.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do just that. Get airside instead of buying bottled water. It's going in the loos. And I was at Heathrow a couple of weeks ago picking my son up, and they had one of those fountains. It's got this lovely display about how many single-use plastic water bottles it's stopped doing, and there's a lever on the bottom, and there's a tap, and the tap comes down to fill your bottle up. In the queue, there were two guys in front of me, didn't have bottles, just put their mouth around the tap and drank from the tap. Now, I don't want to be drinking that water when they've had the mouth around the tap. So, put it straight into my bottle, and I know for a fact that anything dodgy they've left on there has come off, gone into the filter. And I forgot to say it, our filters are 100% recyclable as well. So if you stand on the filter when it's finished, it'll break the sonic welds apart. The 3 pieces of housing for the filter go into domestic plastic recycling, and the membrane itself goes on the compost heap and biodegrades. So the only part you ever need to replace on one of our bottles is 100% recyclable as well. Yeah, it's funny actually when I think back since 2010 when we first started off. We didn't have all that in our minds at the time. It was purely and simply trying to get a filter that would take out all the dodgy stuff out of the water to keep it safe from travelling. But we've grown as a business, and our ethics have strengthened, if you like, and we're more green and worried about the environment than they ever have been. So everything we do has got a purpose. So that's why to work with people like yourselves who recommend the bottles is the perfect partnership, because you help us get the word out there and helps us keep the environment happy, keep everybody safe when they're travelling.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I mean, what I'll do, Dave, is in the show notes for this podcast, I will put a link to the Water to Go website where people can go and see the bottles, have a look at them. I mean, they're, like I say, we've been using them as a company for many, many years now. And, it is, in our opinion, the best bottle to take. It's super easy. You can buy spare filters. You can replace the filters. I quite often will have 2 of them in my bag, just so if you can't fill up, then you know that you've got plenty of water there as well. They fit perfectly well in the side of your rucksack pockets. You can get them out really easy. You can get a drinks carrier for them. So wherever you are going traveling, you don't have to be doing an Everest base camp trek. You could be going to the Maldives, and the Maldives has one of the biggest single-use plastic problems around. So, taking a water to go bottle with you, even on trips like that, makes a massive, massive difference when you think about, how many bottles that you are going to stop using by just having one of these. You go to an all-inclusive and they just give you constantly 50 ml bottles of water all the time. Well, that's 400 plastic bottles you could save with just having one of these bottles.
One filter, yeah.
With one filter, yeah, not just with one bottle, just with one filter. So, Dave, thanks ever so much for coming on today. It's been great to hear your journey with Water to Go, where the idea originally came from, which I didn't know until we started recording this, that you used to be in garments. So I've learned something from this. And we are working closely together now as 2 brands, and we will continue to do so. We will both be at the National Outdoor Expo in March in the NEC in Birmingham. If anyone's coming to see us at that one, you can have a chat to Dave and us at the same time, although we're not next to each other on this time, so we won't be able to.
Unfortunately not. No, you booked your stand before mine.
So and we will catch up there anyway. Dave, Thanks ever so much. Thanks ever so much, everyone, for listening today. If you want to get yourselves a Water to Go bottle, it won't be long before the Bucket List Company ones are available. You might want to wait till then. But if you can't wait that long, you can head over to Dave's website now at Water to Go and grab yourself one there. I'll be back next week with another episode. Hopefully we will be back with Jake, hearing about his adventures on Tootcow at the minute. Well, that's where he is. I spoke to him earlier and he's just arrived in Imlil. So hopefully we'll be back next week with another episode from Jake. But until then, I'll catch up with you later. Thanks very much. Thanks, Dave. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bucketlister Podcast. Be sure to click follow to be alerted for next week's episode. For more travel inspiration, check us out at www.thebucketlistcompany.co.uk or follow us on socials. See you next time.